Hi, so I think we should probably make a start since we're sort of running a little bit late. And what we'll do is we'll give you a little bit of an explanation about what we're aiming to achieve today and the things that we're going to cover. And then we're going to have a bit of an experiment with you, which should be fun. So we hope that you're true comms people and going to throw yourselves into the experiment with great enthusiasm and energy. So we can demonstrate one of the AI tools to you. So basically, today's session is very much around one of the tools that you can use to understand supporters' needs at scale. Um, Obviously, the world of AI is huge, and all the opportunities that charities have within that to support their work, especially around, say, supporter engagement, is vast. So we just wanted to hone down on one of the things that you can use in order to make you feel sort of more comfortable with trying AI, testing things out, experimenting for the benefit of your own organisations. So we've called it How Collecting and Interpreting Qualitative Data Can Unlock Nuggets of Gold. And I think, within the comms and sort of fundraising sphere, this is what we're here to do, isn't it? Just to find those little moments where we know we can speak to our supporters in different ways to get them to engage with us in the work that we do. So I'm going to be yelling next slide at given points. And I'll give you a welcome from me, Nick, in a moment. But basically, we're going to do a bit about why does understanding supporters matter. Now, you probably know this already, but I think sometimes it's good to remind ourselves why we need to understand our supporters' needs and how AI therefore can help us reach those massive groups of supporters that we've got in the world. Just to think about the different ways that we can work with them. But more than that, it's not just reaching them quickly and cheaply, it's figuring out how we can use AI to analyze the insight that we're getting to help us get some clues about how we can better meet their needs, develop new offers, etc. And then at the end, we're going to take quite a lot of questions at the end because we know that people have got a lot of questions around AI. So that's going to be the focus of today. But first of all, my name's Vic Barlow. I am co-director at Agenda. We're a strategic communications agency and we work with charities, not-for-profit organisations, unions on all sorts of work from brand narrative to media discourse analysis to actually developing communication strategy and helping you embed different ways of working in your organisation. And we're beginning to use AI ourselves when we're doing discovery work, when we're speaking to the people that you serve to figure out, as we're developing new services and offer, what do they want, how do they want it, and when. So Nick, over to you.
Hi, I'm Nick Scott. I'm a digital AI strategy consultant. I used to work at Médecins Sans Frontières and various other organizations from the trade union and non-profit space. And I now focus a lot on kind of how organizations can use can understand the way that work, the opportunities, also the challenges of kind of AI for all of the things they do, but my background has been in comms, fundraising, marketing, so on. So I have a particular kind of interest in how it changes the way what you can do to understand members and understand supporters, but also what it does to the way that how their behaviors are likely to change as AI becomes more prevalent in various ways in their lives. So that's my focus.
Lovely. Next slide, please. So, okay, so this is a little bit of teaching you how to suck eggs. You know why your supporters matter, but sometimes using these thought processes help when you're speaking to fellow senior leaders or indeed your CEO/general secretaries who might need to remember why supporters matter to them. But fundamentally, they're the lifeblood of any organisation. There's people that you've got close to you that do the work that you need them to do with and for you, especially around income, because without income, we're not going to survive. So we're looking at our donors, our people who give us grants, people who leave legacies, all those different routes that you've got to get income into your organisation. Then you've got to think about the people who may donate, but also may advocate for your organisation, thinking about how they may campaign on your behalf, how they may reach those decision makers and politicians who make the world a better place for the people that you're trying to serve. And of course, these people also, these supporters of yours may also volunteer. They may give their time and they may give their skills to develop and deliver and develop your services. So although supporters may fall into these buckets in your organization, they may still be the same person. And quite often we miss a trick when we don't see them as like the person that we're dealing with. We just see them as the work they do for us.
The obvious other part of understanding supporters is you can't just accept big single profiles or single personas as representative of all of your supporters. There's a lot of deep insights into who they are, what motivates them, what interests them, why they come to support your organization, and other aspects that will not share. And they won't be homogenous. So they have different reasons to give and to fundraise, as it says here. They're interested in different areas of the work. They come with different political viewpoints. The same person can support an organization for many different reasons. And I guess one of the challenges for organizations is how do you understand that kind of not that diversity of opinion, that diversity of view, that diversity of motivation in a way that you can speak to different people with different needs and different motivations and help them move on their kind of journey towards kind of greater commitment. Um, Next slide, please. So that's when knowing supporters more in depth than you might otherwise see from their kind of, the top line kind of analytical data you might have on of them, or even their kind of, their demographic data and other things. You need to understand why they got involved in the first place. Ideally, you need to understand that as soon as possible so that you can tailor the way that you communicate and engage with them from then on, and kind of segment and think about when the right moment to ask is and when the right moment to communicate what is to the which person, and importantly on which channel, and connect that all. You need to understand then what are the things that are keeping people engaged, what are the things that are keeping people participating and working with the organization. Refine comms, tailor comms, personalize comms based on all of that information. And find it's easy to forget, but people like different forms of recognition. Not everyone responds to the same form of recognition. Some people want to understanding what is the way in which I can recognize your contribution. For some people, a thank you is enough, but other people maybe don't want a thank you. They want more opportunities to participate. In fact, they want to be recognized by being given deeper roots into participation and engagement. So there's a lot of different things to understand in depth to try and move from that kind of one size fits all communications to communications that really connect and understand that person as an individual. There's a lot of you hear a lot about kind of communications to an audience of one. You can't do that unless you have knowledge about supporters in depth knowledge of supporters. Next slide. So it's not just about the opportunity, it's also about the risk. The first risk is if you speak to the majority, you inevitably exclude people. You leave people feeling unloved and you leave people feeling disengaged. You are losing an opportunity with those people and you're potentially putting them off. And those may be the people, actually not the homogenous mass, but the individuals, maybe the people who are most likely to have the deepest relationship with you. They probably have their own reasons for that relationship that they've created, and they might want to go deeper. You obviously can make assumptions. If you don't understand them, you assume, and I think it's all, we've all probably got experiences of where we've made assumptions and had a conversation with someone and actually had our assumptions completely undermined by that conversation. We'd never considered the reasons why they're participating, they're donating, they're volunteering, whatever they're doing, and therefore we're missing the chance to build their loyalty and their commitment. Uh, Data is one of the key drivers of change. And if you don't have data, you don't really realize what the opportunities are that you're missing. And so, you think, oh, everything's going fine. because you don't really have the data to tell you. Actually, there's an opportunity to do something different. Once you start talking to people, you realize those opportunities. You create the data for change. And find new groups to motivate, to engage, and to participate, to help participate. And yeah, I think it's similarly, it's another assumption that the kind of idea of neglecting opinions, not acting what you hear, missing opportunities, and risk losing support. So I think there's lots of risks to not understanding your supporters at a deeper level than you might currently. Next slide, please. So this is where AI may be able to help. Uh, AI as a technology is a technology that scales very well. And scale is something that's hard to do when you combine it with depth outside of AI. So usually there's a bit of a trade-off. You either go qualitative or quantitative, and it's hard to do both without a huge amount of cost. So data collection is one area where AI can collect abundant qualitative data at low cost and at scale. You can ask people how they feel, engage with your brand, understand the cause, understand the opportunities to get them involved. If you did this manually, it would take a lot of staff time. If you did this with a interview program, a telephone interview program or something, it would cost a lot. So a real opportunity to use AI to change the economics of data collection such that you can get deeper insights with not the same cost as it used to be. Then there's a interpretation side. When you collect a lot of data, particularly data that might be unstructured, there's kind of, telephone interviews give you so much data, like, and a lot of it's just words. How do you analyze it? AI is a part of moving analysis of large scale data to being more kind of manageable. It's not the only thing. We can't overly rely on AI, and I'll talk about that a bit later. But you can quickly analyze data, and maybe you can analyze it more in thinking about decision making more at speed because AI can, even if in a traditional project, you might wait till the final report to understand what the opportunities are because you can't do the analysis until you've got all the data. AI is an opportunity to do quick data interpretation, quick decision making, quick testing as you go. You can move to a much more agile and iterative approach to how you use data to segment supporters, to involve supporters, but also to test new approaches with supporters. Next slide. Uh, so what we're going to do now is a short experiment. Now, how many people are you now? We're about 20, 25 people, 20 people. So we won't be getting a massive, huge data set here. We'll be getting a smallish data set that actually you could read through in a short while, but we will be getting a data set nevertheless. Um, and what I'm going to do is send you to a voice form, which is an online tool. There are a few of them that exist. What voice form does is it's like a survey, like Survey Monkey type form, other things that you might have used, but it gives you the option to respond in with recording. And I would encourage you to respond by recording your voice. So it transcribes what you say, and then it can also ask probing questions. So you say something and it's transcribed it and it can ask you a few probing follow-up questions. I haven't turned that on in the interest of time for this, but it can also do that. This is a very simple system, and I think it's more to show you what's possible. I'm not saying I'm not recommending necessarily voice form, but I'm showing you what's possible. Because very quickly, what we'll get, especially if you speak for 30 seconds, 45 seconds there's five different questions, two of the questions or three of the questions ask for voice response. If you speak for 30, 45 seconds, I'm going to get a huge amount of detail about you and your response to that question, much, much more than you'd given 30 or 45 seconds when typing. So please do use your voice. What we'll do is we'll put the QR code up, use your phones, connect in. I'm going to shut up so that so that you don't get heard. I don't get heard, but I'll show you on screen the results as they come in. So do be aware of that if you're giving results. Don't say things that you wouldn't want other people to maybe see coming up on screen. Okay, I think maybe most people we've got a few responses. Let's have a look. We've got 10 responses we've received. So uh, I hope that everyone has responded and finished that needs to finish. I tried to give you some time to do it. So this is just the back end. I don't need to show it, but you can see a whole heap of a number of different places that people have come from. One of in a minute I'll show you this. If you see it, this question, where in the world are you? Now I specifically left it open, and you can see someone's put London, someone's put Leatherhead with a space. Someone's put Dorset, which is not a town, Leicestershire. So there's different. Someone's put England as a country. So very different data in there. Tell us about your work. In here, you can see this was one of the audio things. So you can see each individual audio that's been received, and you can see there's quite a lot of text there. I think if you tried to do this kind of thing in a text form, you wouldn't get anywhere near the same level of detail. Most people took 20 or 30 seconds at max. So actually, you can set it to require people to do longer, although obviously less people will do it. And then there's a scale question and an age range question. So let me stop sharing that and share something else, which is Claude. Let me just 1 second make my Claude window a bit bigger. There we go. Okay. So hopefully you're seeing my Claude. Now, in the background, all of the exercise, all of the responses that people have been sending have gone through to a Google Doc, which I've now connected into my Google Claude, into my Claude. And I'm just going to start by asking it to fix that where in the world are you field. So it's going to look at the document, it's going to find, Leatherhead and so on. It's thinking about it, it's structuring it, and here we go. Here's a table. Maybe I could say, could you? Oh, it's also I've got some notes in the background telling it's for the live demo, so it's giving me personal notes that you're seeing about uh, what I should tell you. So I should tell you that this is exactly the problem that charities face at scale. 7 people, 7 different ways of answering the same question. A county, a country, a misspelled town, and only one person who gave a city and country format. But up here you've got the table. I could say, could you turn this into an Excel file for me? And I then have an Excel file with, hopefully the respondent ID, which would allow me to kind of tabulate from the unstructured data into the structured data. So it's reading a file to work out how to create an Excel, and in a second it'll create an Excel. So that's number one. Number one is actually how much data do we collect in unstructured formats that we could find really interesting ways of analyzing if we were to structure it. Now, I'm not just talking about location because that's a really obvious one, but there's lots of things where you might have telephone logs from your call center, and you could think about, well, actually, I'd like to tabulate and understand the different categories of things that people have responded about, or lots of different things that live in completely unstructured formats that we'd be able to do a lot stronger work with if we could structure it. And here's your Excel. Lincolnshire, the original response, the country, the city region, and I'd be able to do other kind of stuff on that if I wanted. Let's go to ask it to do something else. Let me just copy another prompt, 1 sec. So go back to my chat, another prompt. And I need to also get the link. Sorry, 1 sec. Here we go. I need to Google. So this time, what I'm asking it to do is to analyze the confidence ratings in the Google Doc. Uh, sorry, I've got the right one. I'm worried I've missed a step. I think no, that's right. To analyze the confidence ratings, so the kind of sentiment patterns, any demographic patterns, and a simple data visualization. Now, we only have really limited data. So what I'm asking you to do is take a piece of quantitative data, which was the how confident are you with using AI, and see what connections it can find to the other data that's in there, which is all in general unstructured data. So the location, the location, the what you're interested in AI, various other things. And so it's now extracting the survey data. Here we go. It only found 7. I need to check why I only found 7. I think 10 people. But it's extracted your organizations, where it can find it. It's extracted your age range, it's extracted your confidence rate, and it's extracted your location. So it's done a whole lot of connecting of different pieces of data, and it's now writing code in this case to create a little dashboard, which in a second will be finished. So you can see it's kind of turning unstructured into structured data was the first step, and now it's going to turn it into something I can quickly visualize. Now, this dashboard is not perfect, but if you think about during campaign, when you're running some kind of listening campaign, in fact, one of the things I would really be interested in running this kind of thing with a organization on is understanding how your audiences use AI. How many of them are reading AI overviews on Google to find out and finding out stuff from AI overviews on Google? Because it's increasingly becoming a problem, particularly if you're in health. A lot of the health charities have spent time creating brilliant pages that have lots of kind of detail on health issues. Now AI overviews on Google is taking all of the traffic. We need to understand how our supporters use AI to be able to think, how are we going to use AI to reach our supporters too? So yeah, here we go. It's creating it, and here we go. Here's the analysis. So collected live via voice form, 7 responses. You have a mean score in terms of confidence. We're only just above half 5 out of 10 in terms of confidence as a group. Individual scores, demographics. So various hopes and concerns that are linked to it. So efficiency and time saving, data analysis and insight, and various other things. Now, again, this isn't perfect, but it's an indication of what you can do very quickly in terms of viewing a piece of data that feels relatively unstructured. I'll show you the Google Doc in a second, and turning it into something that you can actually analyze. And because we've linked it to voice recordings, the depth of the data we received is so much more than we would have been able to receive on a normal online form. So, as I said, I just wanted to show you the one more thing, which is the original document that it's been looking at, just so you get a sense of quite how unstructured it is. This is what it's been analyzing, just this document. So you can see it's just a Google Doc, and it's got a whole load of the responses one after the other. So uh, back to the presentation guru in the background. If you can put the presentation on, and we've got a little bit of, we can move forward. I think it's moving forward a couple because these are for the demos. We've reviewed results as they came in. We've used AI to turn structured, unstructured, and structured. We've got clues to the data story. Next. So we just did an experiment. Obviously, it's a really small experiment. We just used a tool that we trust to quickly collect data using your voices without you knowing without knowing how you might feel about that and whether you'll participate or be honest. So you could do the same thing. You could use a tool like VoiceForm to quickly collect data about supporters' voices without knowing how they might feel about that and how their feelings might affect the result. But actually, beware. It would be better to understand what supporters you might ask to participate in a voice survey feel about it. So voice surveys are great. They get you really good data. But in the NHS, for example, one of the big debates in the NHS around using AI in doctors' surgeries to transcribe meeting notes, and save the doctor's time. It's not about the data privacy because they can handle that. It's about, will people who know they're being recorded say different things? Will they not be as honest? Will they not say the things that we need to hear? That's the same kind of thing you need to understand. You need to understand, is this likely to skew our results? So you can handle the safety, the data privacy, the way you treat that data. That's a technical question, and you can handle it. And if you can persuade people it's okay, you can handle their kind of doubts. But it's very hard to handle changes of behaviors that you can't see. So one thing to be aware of. Second thing to be aware of. Next slide, please. We just asked AI to turn unstructured into structured data, and we did no spot checking. Well, actually, there was only 7, so I probably did do a bit of spot checking, but we didn't do very much spot checking or review. You could do the same. You could ask thousands of people to give their location, and get AI to turn it into data, analyze that data, and make decisions based on it. If you didn't do spot checking, then you maybe risk AI making mistakes. And AI does make mistakes. So it's still spot checking. But what someone's asking, Becky's asking in the chat, what do I mean by spot checking? Literally checking the out Excel against the original data a bit is what I would have done to check that there's nothing that seems wrong. Having a human as part of the review process whenever you use AI is really important because if you cut out the human entirely, you miss sometimes when AI can make mistakes. AI is capable of hallucinations. I'm sure everyone has heard the word hallucination by now. And it can work very well on data, but sometimes it can hallucinate. So I would always have a spot check, which we didn't really do because we didn't do it for time. I would have done that in a more work through way. Next slide, please. We just collected qualitative data quickly, and that's a scale of, well, not a huge scale, but from a group of participants that self-selected for to participate in the demo, and the demo has no real life meaning. You could collect data quickly and at scale from supporters and make decisions based on what they tell you. Uh, but it would actually be better to collect data from those who respond because it's for nuance or for thinking through arguments or for thinking through approaches, but not necessarily for decision making. If you're going to collect qualitative data at scale, you need to think about how does the people that participate, how does that match your supporter profile? Or, so it's one thing if you're trying to understand different views and think, okay, this is the diversity of our supporters. It's another thing if you think, okay, these views represent our supporters. So I don't think what I just showed, what you just did, represents you. And you shouldn't think what you do represents your supporters equally unless you take time on it. So it's really important to say that was an experiment. That's another way. You need to focus on the group and how you understand whether the group is representative. Next slide, please. And finally, we spent a few minutes asking it to develop an analysis from the data. We didn't really interrogate it. I showed you the dashboard. I didn't really spend any time saying, okay, so what does that mean? How does that work? You could use AI as a shortcut to analysis on any kind of data if you want. But what you're doing there is you're handing over your thinking to AI rather than interrogating it deeply and using AI to deepen your thinking. It's not AI's job to understand your members and your supporters. It's your job. So if you're using AI to try and understand more deeply what your supporters are doing and why they're doing it, and you're asking questions and you're connecting, looking back into the source data, testing it against your intuition. That's about you using it to improve your thinking so that next time, without technology, without AI, you can make decisions that feel a bit more like they're taking the data supporters into account. So it's really easy to use generative AI to kind of outsource your thinking. That's not the purpose of doing supporter listening with AI. The purpose of doing supporter listening with AI is actually to strengthen your thinking, to give yourself new ways of thinking rather than to outsource it to AI. I think that's the last one I speak to, but if you can just uh, so Vic.
So I think what we're learning is AI is a great route to giving us good direction, good clues about what we should be doing with our supporters, how we can engage them to better work with us. So I just wrote up some ideas here about how, when you're thinking about those supporter journeys, if you're going to get them in and keep them in, it's just reaching all those groups that you might never get to geographically because you don't have any presence there geographically, but just to understand why they would support your brand and cause. And there might be geographical reasons why they choose that, which gives you some clues about how you would segment your messaging to get them in and keep them in. But also for those that are paying a DD or have got some sort of donation relationship with you, if they're not advocating in the way that you want them to, if they're starting to drop out of that and you can see things are changing, you could have like an AI survey set up where, with their permission, that you have that conversation with them about why are they no longer wanting to get active with you, and then what would bring them back into the fold. Because there's nothing worse when you're starting to lose money and advocacy, because those are the people that you rely on to build the strength of your organisation. And of course, within advocacy itself, we need to understand what motivates people to advocate for us. What is their lived experience that you could go out and develop policy positions around and ask them to go and advocate on your behalf? So you've got that authenticity of voice and experience when you go out into the world and represent them. But also, asking them to get involved as well. What are they going to do on your behalf? We all talk about ladder of engagement. What is the lowest thing that they're prepared to do for you, right up to the highest thing? So you can start to think about what groups of supporters you ask to do what. And it can be anything from, like, sign a petition, right up to come on a demonstration, right up to take part on an APPG with us, whatever it may be. But just asking them what's going to be enough for them to get involved and what they're prepared to do. And then, of course, the other thing is their time. It's so important, their voluntary time. It's like, well, what would make them want to get involved with you in that respect? And then when they're in, say, service delivery or dealing with people on the ground, those small, tiny little bits that could be better and make the experience better for them as volunteers, but also as the people that you serve in your organisations, what could make the service that your support you offer better? And also just thinking about flagging problems and risk. There's nothing, those little moments where you think, oh, if I'd only known that before, I could have managed it later on. So there's all those nuances, small chats, opportunities to get in front of people that can really help you frame how you ask them to get to join, to stay, to get active and spend their time with you. Next slide, please. So we have about 12 minutes or so for questions. It's probably best, although we are quite a small cohort, but if you want to stick them in the chat, that would be great. And if anybody wants to bob on the screen and ask the question, there's an opportunity to do that, which would be great to see your faces. But has anybody got any questions? This was a whistle stop tour through an AI tool. And I'm always impressed how Nick's manages to get the data together, stick it in a dashboard, and put it up for us to have a look at. So the first question we've got is, oh, this is interesting. How good is AI at distinguishing different accents, Nick?
So I don't know how many of you have ever read the transcript of a meeting that is generated, that's recorded with AI. If you've ever spent any time reading the transcript of a meeting, I think you'd pretty much be able to say it makes no sense whatsoever. It's really hard to read the transcript of a meeting, and one of the reasons is it often is not great at transcribing people with different accents. But depends a little bit on the level of or the amount of data, the amount that people say. What it is very good at is intuiting from patterns it's found, because AI is just a pattern matcher, from patterns what actually was being said. So the transcription can make no sense. If you put it through a generative AI, like through ChatGPT, and say, what were people actually saying, it will work it out and it will do it relatively well. Not perfect, relatively well. And the way it does that is because actually it understands patterns. So one of the really weird example here, my accent for whatever reason often gets transcribed in Welsh. And so I don't do well. I don't know Welsh. Someone one day, I have to find someone in Welsh one day someone who speaks Welsh one day to tell me what does this actually say. This text it's transcribed it to, because it's transcribed it to Welsh. But if I then put that text in Welsh into ChatGPT and talk to it, it knows exactly what I was saying. It is the text. It is somehow the text that I'd said, but it's been translated to Welsh in some way. So there's weird things around how patterns are matched that it can intuit and transcribe quite. Even though the transcription looks rubbish, it can actually work a lot out. So it's not perfect, but it's a lot better than you might imagine if you looked at the raw data at understanding what people were actually meaning.
Hmm. And I think that's quite brings us on to the next question, actually, which was around if we are going to just use it sort of presumably like to give us clues and breadcrumbs to what we can do, and we have to spend much time reviewing and checking accuracy after that, what is the point of using it? Now, I mean, what I think from my point of view, as somebody who would use AI when we're dealing with broad, big groups of people, for me, it's that ability to reach people really, really quickly, ask them the questions, get the information in, and start reviewing it, and then doing the spot checks in a way that, say, I was going to buy an omnibus survey or a market research opportunity, it saves me time and it saves me money to get that information in. But in terms of the reviewing and accuracy, Nick, what are your views on that?
I mean, if you are doing exactly the same thing as you'd have done without AI and it's taking you exactly the same amount of time, then there's probably no point in doing it with AI. But that's not the opportunity. The opportunity is to do things that you can't do without AI and spend the same amount of time doing it. So to go deeper into your understanding of what, like to understand more depth around what supporters are doing, to have it at greater scale, those kinds of things, yeah, it might take you the same time as you used to use. It might take you the same amount of time on a AI survey with voice as it did on a Typeform survey or a Survey Monkey survey. But if the depth of the data you got is much, much, much deeper, then that's not about time saving. That's about improving the quality of your understanding. So yeah, I think if all else is the same, then it's not worth it. But that's not the goal. The goal is actually to do something you're not able to do without AI, if possible.
Mm. And also, even if you're getting in like Survey Monkey responses as well, you're still going to be double checking the quality of those responses and the accuracy of those responses. It's just that this gives you like the opportunity to get in quickly and more broadly and to start doing personas much more quickly. For me, and the ability to bring in different types of content origination, for want of a better word, i.e., people could speak to you, but you can also take in WhatsApp messages. You can also take in notes from people from meetings and put them all in the same space and get them analysed along the same questions. I think it's for me, it's that ability to start spotting the opportunities to do further, deeper research. I mean, no market research is going to give you the depth that this is either. It's just another tool that's probably cheaper and gets you a broader reach. Next question we have is from Becky, saying, is it possible to use this to review social media comments? And you said yes.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it would definitely be possible. Anything that can be that is audio or text can be analyzed with AI and then there's with some provisos which are actually part of the answer to the next question that comes up
Yeah.
about ethics and other issues. So
Okay, that question is about seeing ChatGPT, for example, make so many mistakes when it asks you to explain something step by step, and the environmental impact of using AI extensively. Um,
Well, I
yeah,
do a lot of, let me answer that. I do a lot of AI training for organizations, for charities, for non-profits, for think tanks, trade unions, and more. And the key thing I train is uh, that every time the thing that you have to have to focus most on when you're using AI is your judgment and your thinking. And judgment includes thinking what are the risks of inaccuracies and mistakes? Are the risks can we handle those risks? Are they better than the risk of not doing it at all? And if so, then how do we try to mitigate those risks? How do we make sure we don't scale mistakes or make decisions based on scaled mistakes or so on? So yes, AI can produce inaccuracies. I'd also say that the difference between a free ChatGPT that exists today and the most advanced models in terms of the accuracy is quite big. It's not no model is perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but free ChatGPT is miles away from what you have in the Claude version I was using, for example, which is the most advanced version of Claude. Um, Environmental impact, representation, equality, inclusion, uh, all absolutely essential. You need to be thinking before you do this, what am I doing and what are the impacts of what I'm doing? And environmental impact is the hardest in some way because it's the one that we have least data. We really struggle to get the data to understand what's the environmental impact of every activity we could do on it with AI, because the data provide the tech companies don't provide data on the environmental burden of their stuff. But we know, data centers are being created and there is an impact. But if you spend any time on YouTube, if you spend any time on Netflix, anything like there's a huge number of things that we do in our society that have actually a really large impact in terms of the data center use of energy and water. And it's not just AI. So part of what you need to think about is what is this cutting out in terms of the other things we might do? Are we happy with that? Be considerate. Like, choose whether you're up for doing it. There's some really interesting stuff from Friends of the Earth about how and when they choose to use AI, and they do use AI in Friends of the Earth, despite being an environmental organization, despite AI's environmental impact. So it's not kind of you can't use anything because you can't use AI because of the environmental reasons. It's that you have to, for environmental, ethical, inclusion, bias, and all sorts of other reasons, you have to go there with your thinking cap on and think, what am I, what are the risks to what I'm doing and how do I mitigate them, or how do I make sure that I'm acting in a way that is in line with the values of our supporters? And that's a really another really important thing is at right now, AI, using AI, particularly in conversations with supporters, you have to understand how they feel about it, because it is a political issue. It is a an issue that where values come very much to the core, and you could potentially have an impact on your reputation with your supporters. So you need to be sure before you do this, despite the opportunities, that they're in a place that you can do it. I often liken AI right now to the use of AI right now to the use of phones on trains back in the late 90s. Back then, everyone was like, "Oh, I hate this. Why are we going to do this?" And nowadays, we do it and it's done, and you don't get people particularly specifically hating you for having a phone using a phone on a train, even if you're like we're norm setting right now, and you need to understand what your supporters are willing to take or not. Sorry,
That's a
on
good
that.
point. Just like we would give supporter information over to a market research company, for example, we would be very careful about how we cut that data and the types of people that, the permissions that we would seek to do that. Just because we use AI doesn't mean to say we don't do the same sort of levels of what we might think of as due diligence and early supporter engagement to make sure that they're up for this and they're the right people to be in the group. So if we're 1 minute to finishing, so I think we'll probably go to the last slide, which is basically thank you. Thank you for coming, putting up with us coming late. Thank you for putting up with my sound issues. But do keep in touch with us. That's my email address, and our website you'll know is youragenda.com. That's Nick's email address. So we will follow up with an email with this afterwards with the slide deck and with the version of this to watch again if you wish. You'll see it was like jam packed, but actually pulling it out into much more slower and more thoughtful and more deliberate ways of working with your organization. If anybody would like to work with us, that will be fantastic. We're learning from lots of different organizations at the same time. So if that's something you would like to do, then we'd be very willing to have conversations with you. We also at Agenda have something called Comms Lab, which is where we do big media discourse analysis, and we're starting to use AI ourselves to figure out all that volume of information about how we could think about framing for positioning organisations too. So, like I say, do keep in touch, and thank you ever so much for coming along.